SPI 5.1 dichotomous keys. Okay, the first word we need to define is levels of classification. Levels of classification are systems developed to group organisms based on their similarity to each other, or similarities, I guess I should say, to each other. Often we look at physical characteristics when the classification system first began, and then since then we have went a little bit further. Okay, I'm going to show you an example here of they've taken different animals here, and all of these animals have in common, let me get a pen here so you can see what I'm talking about. All these animals right here have in common is they belong to the kingdom Animalia, okay, that they're animals, all right. Now there's other kingdoms that doesn't include animals, okay, so there would be a plant kingdom. So I think there's 6, maybe 7 different kingdoms. I think that may have changed. I always said 6, but I'm thinking now it may be 7. Okay, now the next thing is after you go underneath kingdom, if you noticed, we got rid of the starfish here, all right, and we went on down and we're looking at the phylum Chordata, and Chordata means that they have a spinal cord, okay? So a starfish doesn't have a spinal cord, so it's not similar to these animals anymore, so we kind of ditched it. Okay, then the next one we talk about is we say class Mammalia, which means that they're a mammal, okay? A mammal has to give live birth to young, have hair, and feed its young milk, okay? So that knocked out who? The snake, okay? So you can see as we go down, all right, that these become more similar to each other, okay? And they're more closely related in their characteristics, okay? Now, so I want you to underline kingdom, I want you to underline phylum, I want you to underline class, order, family, genus, and species. And do notice that once you get to the bottom, there is only one in the species, okay? When you talk about any particular organism, they are their own species. All right, now, there's a way that you can remember this, all right? And I want you to put this to the left, all right? And that is that King Philip came over for grape soda, okay? Now, that K, of course, would kingdom, P for Philip would be phylum, came, class, over, order, for, family, grape, genus, species, soda, okay? So that's a way to remember. Now, if your first name begins with the letter A through K, put a smiley face in the upper right-hand corner on the front of this sheet. All right, so now you've had an introduction to that. Now let's look at this binomial nomenclature, okay? And what is binomial nomenclature, okay? It's when you have a scientific two-part name of an organism. All right. Believe it or not, you have one, all right, and you are a Homo sapien. Now, what really is supposed to happen is anytime you see these, if you're typing it, it is supposed to be italicized, all right? Now, also, if you are handwriting it out, let's say that I handwrote this, all right, then you need to underline it, all right? So, as you handwrite it out, you need to underline it. Also, notice that the genus, okay, which in this example here would be the word homo, okay, it's capitalized, and then your species is always lowercase, okay? So you as a human, you are a Homo sapien. That is your genus, and that is your species. All right, so what about this dichotomous key, which is actually the name of our fun sheet? Let's see what that is. A dichotomous key is a method for identifying or naming something. All right, and I want you to know that it is the scientific name of, let's say, an example would be like the scientific name of a butterfly or a plant. Okay. And you do this by going through, and we'll look at one of these in just a second, a series of choices that leads you to the correct name of the organism. Okay, here's your definition for dichotomous key. Now, if your last name, your first name is the letters L through Z, I want you to put a heart in the upper right-hand corner of this sheet. All right, now we're actually going to look at a dichotomous key here, and I'll use blue the first time. We know what this is, but let's say we didn't know what this animal right here was, okay? We didn't know what this thing was right here. So we go to our dichotomous key, which is at the bottom here, and we look, okay, look at number 1, does our A animal have fur, or B animal does not have fur? Okay, this kitty cat has fur, all right? So it says we go to number what? 2. Now we go to 2, and it says animal is carnivorous, which means that it eats meat, or it's an herbivore, which means, carnivore, or B choice, is it a herbivore? Of course, our kitty cat here, we know, eats meat. So then it says to go to number 3. Oh, goodness. Sorry about that. Oop, there we go. All right, so we go to number 3. Animal has pointed ears, it stands up. Guess what? Ours does. So then we know that ours is a what cat? So you need to write cat. All right. So that's the first one. All right, so I want you to go through here, and I want you, we've done the first one with you. This one is self-explanatory, but I made this one easy, and yes, it doesn't use scientific nomenclature or names, right? But I want you to use it to identify the organisms. And yes, you may write the names down, but as practice, it will help you if you go through the key, because the next slide, all right, I actually want you to do this. So we're going to look at number 1. Here is our animal for number 1, and these use scientific names, okay? So I can tell whether or not you did this, okay? By the way, if you have Miss Gunner, circle the dog here. If you have Miss Brules, circle the bird, please. All right, so let's look at number 1. And I'm going to highlight this as I go, and then I'll have to erase it. Okay, so organism, we're looking at A, number 1A, organism with 2 or more functional legs, or organism without 2 or 4 legs. Okay, so our organism is a dog, and it actually has how many? 2 legs. So then we have to go to number 2. Also, why they call these dichotomous keys is because di means 2. There's always 2 choices. If you notice, there's an 1A, a 1B, a 2A, a 2B, a 3A, a 3B. Okay, so there's 2 choices. All right, so it says go to number 2. All right, so 2A says organism without wings. Guess what? That's what our animal is. So you need to write over here at number 1, all right, the scientific name of a dog. And key that out. Okay, and we'll be doing more of this in class. Now, remember, because you wrote it and you're not typing it, you can't actually italicize it. You need to underline it. All right, I want to do one more practice. Let's see. I'm going to erase what I got here. We're going to now do number 2. So, looking at number 2, we always start at number 1. Organism has 2 or 4 functional legs. That is definitely not number 2. 1B, organism without 2 or 4 legs. That's correct. So then we need to go, it tells us to go to number 3. Now we go to number 3, and it says organism is unicellular, which means single-celled, or 3B, organism is multicellular. Okay, our organism is definitely multicellular, which means it has more than one cell. Then we have to go to number 5. So now that we're at number 5, organism is autotrophic, or organism is heterotrophic. And I went down to 6, sorry about that, a little bit. Oops, let's get that off of there. Okay, so we're looking at number 5. Now, and sometimes you may not know terminology that's used in a key, so you'll actually need to look that up or use the index in that key to find out what the terminology means. But in this case, I'm going to tell you heterotrophic means that it has to eat to survive. It can't produce its own food. But autotrophic means it's self-feeding. It is able to eat its own food. So then, if we're talking about a plant here, we know that plants use the sunlight and they make their own food. They are autotrophic. So now we need to go to number 7. Here's our choices at 7. The organism is a tree or the organism is an herb. All right, we know that it's definitely not a tree as we look up here at number 2 and look at it. Okay, so then we can identify that our number 2 is Tarixicum, Officinaale. Okay, the common name is a dandelion. Okay, but this is a scientific name, and remember to definitely underline it. All right, now at the bottom right-hand side, you need to key the other 7. Excuse me, the total 7. So it'll be 5 more for you to do, and then I need for you to write your name at the bottom right-hand corner, bottom of this sheet. And I'm going to show you, for example, I would write Gunnar Andrea, okay, because there is more Gunnars, for example. If this was my scientific name, okay, this would be more general. This is very specific, okay? So make sure at the bottom right-hand corner that you do that. Okay, this is the end of 5.1 using dichotomous keys, and that was quick, but we will do plenty of practice with these in class.